Rahman Rahim. Hello student, I am sure that you are listening a very important topic, that is the new devolution plan and you are as eager as I am, because nowadays there is a discussion of the local government election that is more important from any aspect for the civil society, because over the years there have been different local government elections with no objective achieved. Particularly and fortunately, this time the elections are being conducted on the basis of party basis in the 66-year history of Pakistan. In the all previous example, you can see that the party elections were convened on the basis of non-party basis, and it is interesting to know about this, that the governments were not willing to conduct elections on the party basis, but Lahore High Court ordered the Punjab government to make sure that the elections are conducted on the basis of party. So it is I think it is even better for the parties, the political parties, that they get grassroots level popularity, but I don't know what they are, why they are reluctant. What I can understand, this is only that they don't want to share their powers and authority to the local government. So what we covered in the previous lecture, it was just a difference between the new devolution plan of the Musharraf government and the previous one. And if I am true, we were talking about some of the basic and significant changes that this devolution plan has and the others haven't. So what was the first change? The first change was that in this financial freedom, although the financial freedom was given, but interestingly the provincial authority was shared, but not a single federal tax was allowed or shared to give to the government, to the district government. Similarly, the integration between the three tiers of the governments, the Union Council, the Tehsil Councils, and the District Nazim, that was made because this government, that was the Musharraf government, has the experience that over the year there have been lack of integration between different tiers of the government. So it was made, the effort was made to make it sure that this happens, that there is no lack of integration between different tiers of the local government. After this, there was an interesting story that the local government were elected government, but in the center there was non-elected government. So due to this reason, there was some of the problem that when these local government elections were being held, the centers and the provincial assemblies were not present. So it means the policy maker, although they kept in mind in the future that how the district governments and the federal and the provincial government will be linked, but ultimately this was not fully achieved. So we will discuss this, that what were the basic changes. And I remember that we were talking about that it was the interesting that local government were elected, the centralized power were with the center, that was the non-elected. The other difference between this, that electoral process was a bit differently changed, and it was done through the elected members rather than any of the bureaucracy. Further difference was that the quota of the women and the peasant was increased from 10 and 5% to significantly 1/3 of the majority of the total assembly or the district council or the Tehsil council and whatsoever for this. And similarly, the accountability process was a bit changed, and the most and the significant was that the authority, that the administrative powers were shifted towards the real representative. And this devolution plan saw first time in the history of the Pakistan that the bureaucracy was made responsible before the elected people. So now it's time to start firmly, and I think you will link the previous one with this one. And if you remember that we were talking about the non-representative center and local government. Musharraf's local government reforms represent a continuity of the central historical tendency. The tendency remains the same. On the concluding remarks of yesterday lecture, I remember I gave a very harsh statement. Then there is a change of the words, that in pre-independence they were the British imperialism, and after that was the military imperialism or military dictatorship, or you can say the political government. The one thing that was remained the common throughout the history, that no center was ready to share its authority, its power, its jurisdiction with the local governments. So this tendency of hierarchy, of a concentration of the authority or concentration of the powers remain with the center, even with the Musharraf's government. Although we are seeing on repeated occasion that this was much better than the previous ones, but still this tendency was there, that the powers were rest with the center. Contrary to countries in other countries, in Pakistan the military's need for legitimization of state control appears to be a prime reason. What is the difference between this? If in other countries we see about what was the purpose of the local government, I am not talking about the developed countries only. Even in the developing countries, the purpose of convening the local government election is to just give the local people their right of electing their representative from their own, and then allow them to solve their problem. But as we are aware of this situation, that the military dictators were more keen about this local government bodies, so their psyche was that they were in state control appears to be a prime reason behind the recurring attempts at the local government reform. So in Pakistan, the purpose or the objective of the military was to secure its legitimacy of the state control, because you may agree and you should agree that no doubt the military has the enough powers, and without any justification they can control or rule the country over the years and years. But still, when there is a pressure, now there is a era of the media and the print and electronic media, there is a revolution of change in information. So there was a bit pressure on all the dictators to show something their legitimacy. That's why they went in this direction or that direction, and ultimately their policy makers or their brainchilds or their strategy was to just convene local election. Multilateral pressure for decentralization in Pakistan had existed since the mid-90s. In 1988, you know that there was again the political regime, reinforcement of the political system. So since then, multifaceted pressure were on the decentralized, that the powers should be shared, power should be transferred to the local people so that they could solve their problem. However, many of the government resisted, and still it is interesting, in the 21st century the elected government of the Nawaz Sharif is still resisting to shift the shift the authorities. It is not only Punjab, in all other provinces, Sindh, Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the situation is the same, and I am sure that when you will be listening this lecture, the scenario will be most clear, that everything will be clear, and I am sure you will be listening and you will be watching by experience that very rare possibility exists that the center, now centers are the province, that the province will share their authority with the local government. However, let's see what the things happen, and we see what this drama takes the ultimate shape, and we will see, and then we will match it that what was the prediction, it is not necessarily that I want my prediction should be true, but it is on the historical basis, on the case studies, and being students of public administration and political science and economics over the years of I have the experience that what the psychological factor, socio-economic factors that force political government to keep most of the power with them is just that is not totally true. They think that the real thing is their fear. The fear should be now over, because the more local government are powerful, the more province are powerful, and even the center becomes more powerful. Otherwise we will see after 1 or 2 lectures that there becomes polarization of the society, and society and state become in front of each other. That is very, very dangerous from any respect of the society. And nowadays in Muharram days you are looking that the states and the people are in front of each other. This is not a just a flow कि कोई हादसा जो है यकदम नहीं होता. It takes several years to gather up, and it exploded in a new dimension, and the less visionary governments are unable to solve these problems. However, no major attempt at decentralization were initiated by the Pakistani state until General Musharraf's takeover in 19. Pressure तो बहुत रहा governments पर, from Benazir government, Nawaz government, again Benazir and again Nawaz Sharif. Pressure was there from the people and the other segments of the society, segments of media and others, but they resisted and resisted powerfully. And this was just a dream till the military takeover of Musharraf. Our discussion continues that non-representative centers and local government reforms. This is the I would like to exemplify this in that way. I remember that I have given the same example that even if one person comes to your family that is not matching with you, he creates a lot of trouble for you or for us people. He is human being, he or she is human being, he know the etiquettes, but there is a mismatch. The similar thing is happening in the history of Pakistan, that how the center is non-representative, the federal governments are representative, and how they go by side. Definitely one wheel is powerful than the other, or at least you can say that both the wheels are not working at the same speed. So ultimately there is a tragic end, and we have seen that there always have been a tragic end. It doesn't mean that there was a huge tragedy. The biggest tragedy is that we could not achieve our political objective that were most clear, and that's why there is a less developed civil society, there is illiteration, there is lack of knowledge, there is lack of health facilities, education facilities. If I continue, it will take long. Just wrapping up the discussion, that this was the tragic, or you can say that the most critical end of many of these policies. An interesting fact is that local government empowerment has always been combined with centralization of political power in the hands of the non-representative servant. किया गया है powerful जो है local government को, but ultimately it has been done by keeping the centralized center powerful. ये जो बंदर बांट हुई है, you can say that this is not the true or fair or transparent or legal. This is only you can say a so-called drama, so-called transition of power from center to there, because the center always wants to give. If I am, it is just not a history. If I and you are sitting at the center, it is very, very difficult to give your powers, and despite many of the limitations of the previous president, elected president Asif Ali Zardari, he has the courage, he has the credit that he given his powers to the parliament. But no one in the history of Pakistan you will see that the powers were either taken on the basis of bullet, otherwise no one was willing to share his power. If even it is happening in nowadays in the patriarchal societies where someone becomes dominant, he or she exploits the other, and ultimately, until and unless there is agitation, he or she is not willing to quit this one. The same situation, family is a unit of the system, unit of the state. The same situation continues. These examples are just related to each other. Otherwise, you can't say that these are delinked or they have no purpose to here. The centralization of political power has undermined a representative institution not only at the level of the center but also at the level of the provinces. Definitely when the whole system is going through, but at the beginning there is a big loophole. It just gives puts non-credibility on the face of the whole system. The same is happening in Pakistan, that the whole exercise went into futile when there was still a non-representative and powerful center keeping everything in one hand and not delivering one. That's why the political local government could not deliver over the year. So this was not only at the level of the center, ये center ने ही काम नहीं किया, जहाँ तक सूबों का जो है वो दाव लगा, they also did the same thing. And even if there were division, I am sure that I would have been talking about the same thing, that the divisions were unable to transfer their authorities to the district. And it was interesting that the district were unwilling to share their authorities to the Tehsil Council, and interestingly and more interestingly that the Tehsil Council were unable to deliver to the to hand over their authorities to the local government. So this is a psychological phenomena. This is what you can say lack of education or whatsoever. This is the situation. So what these all dramas are, all these things were a futile, or you can say useless exercise that could not bring the true fruits. The still story going on, and it is a very teasing story. Each attempt by the military preserves the non-representative institutions role at the center. Military ने तो ये काम करना ही करना था, इसको हम कितनी दफ़ा जो है वो डिस्कस करेंगे. It is above board that definitely military would have done this. It's definitely the military that has done this. Even after the revival of representative government, the military did the same thing. Why the military did the same thing? Do not think that I am running after and taking class of the military. It has been the true history of Pakistan, and being the student of public administration and political science, you should remember that not a single example can be given the country that worked that progressed on the basis of the military, exception one or two you can say, but for not the longer time. These are the politicians. No doubt our politicians are still lacking far less experience, but still they are much better than the military dictators. At least they are representative of the people, and they have to be answerable before the people. If they will not work for the welfare of the people, they will not be elected in the next election. The same happened in the previous election that were held, that the PP government went out of the biggest party of Pakistan political landscape, became only a provincial party, and similar happened with the ANP in the KPK. So, but the military dictator is not responsible to anyone. So, when you are talking about the public administration, you can't forget the frame of reference or the context. If I bring all the things without the context, it is very simple to say this and that, but you should remember that what were the scenario of that time and what were the factors from multidimensional that were affecting this or that. Centralization of political power has also involved selective disqualification of political party representatives. This has been done over the years. Ayub Khan ने क्या किया था? Just very quickly, I am sure you are going to tell, PODO and EBDO. These were the two ordinance that were just based to quash the opposition. Opposition was the political leader. Similar did Ziaul Haq with the Pakistan People's Party, and when he conducted the local government and the provincial and the central assembly election, he made sure that not a single representative was elected that has any of the affiliation with the People's Party, and interestingly, if anyone came through without the knowledge of our kingmaker, that is the ISI or the others, he was forced either to quit his seat or he was forced to leave his affiliation with the party. Similar happened in the case of Musharraf. Who was the opponent of the Musharraf? I think you can understand that was the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. So the Pakistan Muslim League went under brutalized examination, and there were harsh behavior towards the Pakistan Muslim League. And what happened? There was selective disqualification. अगर तो general disqualification हो जाए, that doesn't matter. That is a general phenomena, and it should be. But if there is selective disqualification, it put question marks on the face of the credibility, the transparency and the fairness of any of the election. But military dictators have never care about this. They are the kingmakers. Their order is ultimately has to be materialized. But at the later stage, you can see that the changing Pakistan, now Musharraf is under trial, and today there is a very breaking news that he is going to be prosecuted under the Article 6, that if it is proved that he may be hanged, because in the Constitution of Pakistan it is clearly written that if a person breaks the Constitution of Pakistan, he is eligible of treason, and definitely he will have to go. Let's see in which way the wind blows. It is a very, very Herculean task to say it is. I think it is now the power of the people, the power of the political government, that he or she has announced that at least they are going to start the legal procedure against the Musharraf. What even he is trial or not, I think it is a big and changing Pakistan, and it is. I don't know why I have so confident and so strong belief in this, that whether there should may I have a historical study that the only problem solving issue mechanism with Pakistan is the continuity of the democracy, and fortunately that is going on. And at times outright bans on all certain political parties. एक ही पार्टी जो है वो पसंदीदा बन के आई. We will see in the next slide what this. Just to hint you, one was the MQM, and if you remember, the other was PMLQ, headed by Chaudhry Shujaat Hussain. So all other parties were, when People Party was already under stress, Zardari and Benazir was out of the were on the self-exile. Nawaz Sharif was sent forcefully to Saudi Arabia, and there were now the rule of the man, and that was the political parties, that were the selective parties. So these were only the puppets in the hand of the militarization. The latest attempt by the military has again been accompanied by a number of interventions against politicians and political parties. Latest attempt mean the latest devolution plan, that is the plan of 2000, or you can say it was materialized in 2001. So this was the latest attempt, लेकिन इसमें भी ये जो है वो मसला रहा, because the dictators or the rulers introduced such kind of intervention that they made ensure that their opponents, even a single person, appears in the parts or the assemblies or what and so on. So what were these intervention? These intervention includes selective accountability. बड़े ये होशियार लोग हैं, they make a file against a people. For example, if they want to restrict me out of the scene, they will bring my previous career, whether it is true or not, and they will show me, okay, if you are not going to do this, we are going to make a suit against you. And the judiciary is always working on the hands of the dictators. And fortunately, after 2009, there is a change in even the judiciary style. Judicial activism is there. It is a highly debatable thing that it is in the more beneficial or more not beneficial, but at the same time the change is, look, we can see a change in the long way. If you are visionary, you can see many years after that there seems a change. Imran Khan is active, Musharraf is at least under pressure, Nawaz government is active, the people active, people are active, and media is so active that even there is a 1 rupee increase in the dollars value or 1 rupee increase in the tariff, media makes hue and cry, and ultimately forces the political government to go on the back foot and work for the welfare of the people. So these intervention, जिसको आप कहते हैं कि जी ये अछूते जो है वो हथकंडे, छछोरे जो है ये हथकंडे जो है military dictator, definitely they use against their opponents. These intervention includes selective accountability and disqualification. जी मुझे कह दिया गया जी तैयार हो जाओ, if you will not follow, you will be disqualified and you will have to lose your job, otherwise you will have to follow with us. Definitely only a few people resist. You have the many examples that the many people took oath under the PCO, provisional constitutional ordinance. They took oath under this, but there were many of the people like Fakhruddin Ibrahim who never bow before the PCO, and they remain the, you can say, alive over the history of Pakistan. Chief Justice of Pakistan Iftikhar Muhammad Chaudhry is unique that in the first attempt he took oath, and in the second attempt he became a hero of the country. Definitely, at least there is one bad credit on his account, that he also took oath under the PCO. However, he made compensation for this, and he activized the judicial governments and judiciary. The enactment of an educational criteria for electoral candidacy. No doubt that there was one of the criteria that there should be at least BA for the provincial and the Central Assembly or the National Assembly. It was good, but definitely it helped to make choice easy for those people that were this, because many of the experienced political people that were not the graduate. So there was now two-way sword. One was that if they were agreed to cooperate with the government, they were asked to make fake degrees. And if they were not willing to do, they were in a position to give opportunity to any other person like me that has not a political background to become the powerful the competitor of the assembly. And definitely there was a rigging of the poll, and the results were clear. और क्या इसमें बना? And the creation of pro-military political party, the Pakistan Muslim League. If you remember, the Prime and the Chief Minister of Punjab, Chaudhry Parvez Elahi, gave a statement that they wanted to re-elect Musharraf in uniform for 1,000 times. It was a totally, absolutely a very, you can say, a stupid statement from such a leader, that a military dictator is given such an importance. It was just that they were playing in the hands of the dictatorship, because they knew if dictator is there, their tenure is also secured, otherwise they will not be in a position. And the Pakistan Muslim League Q and the MQM, these were the pro-military parties. Now we have left the discussion that was the non-representative center and local government reforms, and now we are entering that local governments versus province. Most of the time we made comparison between the local governments and the center, and we said that the local government was representative, the center was non-representative. Center was so powerful, the local government was so weak. Center was not willing to share its authority with the local government, and this situation and this process continued for over the previous discussion. So the local government versus the province, what? The non-representative designer of local government. अब ये देखें कि this word is very important for you people and me and for all the public administrative. That the non-representative, because when we are talking about the public administration, how to administrate the things, this problem is in the beginning, that if you are not the popular leader of the house in your own family, how you will say that at the lower level you will conduct the local election or whatsoever, you will give the democratic behavior at the the lower level. Non-representative designers of local government have invariably placed a series of limitations on political representation. जब वो एक्सपीरियंस ही नहीं थे, वैसे तो ये बड़े एक्सपीरियंस्ड हैं, दैट इज आवर मिलिट्री डायरेक्टर, दीज आर द किंग मेकर, बट स्टिल दे आर नॉट द पॉलिटिशियन, दे आर नॉट एज क्लेवर एंड एज इंटेलिजेंट एज द पॉलिटिशियन, although they think that they are the uniques because they have the unique power, but they are not as experienced in politics and the other political so what they put many of the limitations on political representative, graduation, this, that, no political background, that and those, these were the, which has distorted electoral competition at the local level. इसने एक नया रंग जो है वो लोकल लेवल पर, there were distortion, there were problem, there was oscillation, there were imbalances at the local level. What was this? The most extreme limitation was placed during the early British period when local government members were nominated by the center. सबसे बड़ा जुल्म क्या हुआ? There will be again the situation will come even up to today. What happened? The British use सारा सिस्टम उन्होंने बिछा दिया, but ultimately they kept all their power by sending only one non-representative. I can say that was the DC, that was the deputy commissioner of that time. So this was the situation, remained the situation, a rule designed to undermine local electoral competition. Competition करवा दिया जाता है, सारा कुछ बयानात हो जाते हैं that we will be giving you the authority, the local government are being made powerful, they can solve their own problem, but ultimately it is all on the paper, and if you have the experience you will see that the local government representative are always helpless, and they are not the authority to intervene. All the stage is set and only one person comes and he is given the extraordinary powers. All military governments have required local government election to be held on a non-party basis. क्यों? Because they are very afraid of from the political parties, particularly the Ayub Khan, the Zia and the Musharraf. They took charge from the political governments, and that was the reason that they were always against this phenomena that the elections are held on the party basis, although they were given certain suggestions to conduct it on the non-party party basis, but they never agreed, and up to their wisdom I think they were true, because if they were not true they would have been faced a fundamental problem, because as the political party becomes powerful at the grassroots level, they make pressure, they push the dictator on the back foot, and ultimately he or she has to give up. A likely objective of this measure has been to weaken the presence of opposition political parties at the local level. ये जो distortion हुई, इसमें जो criteria है what was the objective of this? The ultimate objective of all this drama was making criteria, graduation, that objective was to weaken the presence, कि जो मुखालफीन हैं उनको कुचल दिया जाए। ये हमारी ट्रेजेडी जो है over the years जो है रही है, but we are still in the hands of the same psychological effect. Although there is a bit change, but still the situation has not changed significantly, and it will take years to change, otherwise there will be no change. But now look at, see, under the Zia regime, successful candidate with the PP affiliation were disqualified on different pretexts in the 1970 local bodies election. Zia साहब ने तो पक्का काम किया हुआ था that if any of the people party member is being even suspected that he or she has the affiliation with the Pakistan People's Party, it was immediate and it was written on the board that he will be disqualified, because the Zia has hanged Bhutto, and definitely there was reaction from the Pakistan People Party, and Zia wanted to counterattack this, and that's why he never allowed any of the political giant to enter into the assemblies over the years till 1988. And fortunately, when the 88 elections were held, there was no military rule. The clouds were over that hovered around over the history of this Pakistan for 11 years of brutal, dark, and you can say the multi-dimensional disaster for the Pakistan. We will discuss at later stage by period, and we will see that what were the charismatic gifts of this regime, and that still we are reaping the fruits of this. And I can say with 100% confidence that this ethnic or the religious or the sectarian problem that just happened 2 or 3 days before in Rawalpindi, that took the precious life of 10 to 12 people, these has the roots to the 1970s and the 80s, when they are deliberately empowered these forces to divide and rule and to counter the Pakistan People Party. So this history should be at your back mind, otherwise you will not be explaining the public administration history of Pakistan or the local government of Pakistan. Similarly, winning candidates with opposition party affiliation, Southern Punjab and rural Sindh, were pressurized to withdraw their party affiliation. You know, the People Party has strong hold in the Southern Punjab and Sindh. Not, I should say, had. Now there is not a strong hold in this these previous election. PP could not perform even in the Southern Punjab, but it still has powerful voting majority in the rural Sindh. So the same happened in the जो लोग definitely the winning candidates from the Sindh and the Southern Punjab had the affiliation with the Pakistan People's Party. So what were then? They were were pressurized to withdraw. उनसे कहा गया जी अब their party affiliation either to quit or to do or die. Dictator speaks in that way. Look at the Musharraf when he used to say that this is my fist and I will fall, I will deal with all the forces with this one. And ultimately now he is under trial, and we hope that ultimately he faces all the allegation that has been imposed on him, and he faces it in the courts. And we also expect that the court delivered the fair justice to that is the right of every Pakistani, including the Musharraf. We do not want that without any evidence or whatsoever the procedural requirement should be fulfilled, and then there should be any of the final decision. Opposition politicians have interpreted these intervention. जो चमचे थे जो है वो इनके ज़िया, मुशर्रफ और इसके अयूब खान के, they interpreted ये जो इनको withdraw कराया गया, इनसे कहा गया कि you should quit otherwise you can't survive. So the parties that were at the sides of the military, they interpreted in a very interesting way. What? As a means to create a competing class of collaborative politician. उन्होंने कहा कि जी अब पॉलिटिशियन की एक नई क्लास जो है वो कम्पिटेटिव जो है, इन अदर वर्ड्स यू कैन से द मोर efficient or the more wise or the more intelligent people, the competing class of politician was being emerged. Definitely, if I am being spawned by any of the one, definitely I will sing his songs, and definitely I will make praise for that people. The same was happening in the history of Pakistan. Not a very good history, but still we have to change it if we want to survive. The only survival lies with the survival of our democratic institution, and particularly at the local government. And be with me to make a prayer that this time the party basis elections, when these are being held, they should be fair, transparent election, and the local government should perform. Otherwise the civil society or the local or the rural population has become under a very, very crucial situation, and they lack even basic facilities of the life. What the lesson learned we have learned from all this discussion? We discussed it from this new devolution plan, or the previous Zia regime, the Ayub regime, the British, and whatsoever. Now there is a crux. This slide says, and we may give some of the suggestions that are although out of our jurisdiction, because we are not here to give the suggestion, but ultimately being the students of pol science or the public administration, we can give on our behalf some suggestion that can that can bring the changes. It is not necessarily that what I am saying it is 100% true. It may change in the different context, but however, in my opinion, I am very sincere and honest that these are true. What the lesson we have learned: local government were not established with the true spirit and sincerity. This is now crystal clear. It is written on the board. I can see that it is written there that the purpose of the setting of the local government was not sincere and true. It was only to ensure and legitimize the power of the center, and in that interestingly, in those days the center was based on the non-representative elements, that was the real stakeholders of Pakistan. In other words, you can say the military dictators. Non-representative centers experiment of local government is a total failure. This has been done on many occasions. Many occasion means in the Ayub Khan rule, Zia regime, and the Musharraf. When their center was non-representative, the local government were representative, and this experience, this marriage, or this bond between the local government that were representative and the non-representative center, this has been a total failure. I am using the word total failure not on the basis the election was convened, there were the representative, but now I am totally speaking in the deliverance of the service. The service delivery has been so poor that I am sure you may have some background from the village. If you go to the village, particularly the southern Punjab, Balochistan, or the rural Sindh, you will be astonished at how the life is crawling at there. The still people have no access to the drinking water, no schools of the girls even at the village level, and many other problems for this. So I am saying that this has been a total failure. It is up to you. The question may be asked that the drama or the marriage or the co-integration of the non-representative center and the representative local government have been a total failure. Do you agree? Discuss this. So you should have give a very, very comprehensive commentary on this, because I have spoken a lot about this, because I know that the local government, provincial government, and the central government, this is the more important, that is the local government, because many of the time this was denied, and whenever this was conveyed, the results were not clear on this. More, and what we have learned, more powers should be granted to local representative, not on the paper. In the new devolution plan, many of the administrative powers were given to the local government, but in true letter and spirit, they should be given to given authority to take their decision, to make a decision, to implement, and particularly the bone of contention is the lack of resources. सब कुछ दे दिया जाता है, but the supply line is kept with the center. कि वहाँ से रिसोर्सेज जाते हैं, जहाँ आप जितने भी पावरफुल हों, when your resources come from other source, definitely you are dependent upon this. Look at Pakistan, now we are getting the aid and loans and whatsoever different name from the World Bank, IMF and the America, USA. We are still, that's why we are dependent upon other, and our Prime Minister feels proud that if he gets 3 or 4 minutes meeting time from the President Obama. The next our learning from over this history is that they should be accountable to elected representative rather bureaucracy. The elected representative should be responsible to the elected representative election, that is the public. If you are not performing here, definitely after 4 or 5 years you are going to appear a very litmus test, that is a very difficult test, that is the public or the voting test, that has the PP and the ANP could not pass in their previous election. The system should continue without break. This is one of the significant factor that we are suggesting on the our previous knowledge, that the system should continue. Look at there, Ayub did this, Bhutto could not do this, Zia did this, and from 1988 to 1999 political government even suspended the local government. So when there is a break, the again story start from the zero. But if there is gradual change, even step by step, definitely there is a minor and minute improvement, that is a significant improvement. Even if you go at a snail pace in the history of the nation's year, doesn't matter, it took several years to become a nation, and if 50 or 60 years, I don't think this is a very small span of time in any in the history of any nation. So at least there should be a positive movement. If I am moving towards the definition, even at a very, very slow speed at the snail's pace, there are the chances that at later stage when I will get momentum, I will become speedy and I may touch the destination well in time. At least my direction is true in that way. The political government should take the initiative. This is very sorry to say that at least the dictators have the credit that they at least make a drama of the local government. But very sorry to say that the political government, to which this was their responsibility, their duty to conduct the local bodies election, they always remain hesitant from this or that, and ultimately and now forcefully on the direction of the Supreme Court and the High Court, and they are now going to hold the local body elections on the party basis. So these were one of the lessons, some of the lessons that we have learned over the history that has spanned over a 66 year, even before the 1947, that was the British rule or the British India. Now we are going to start a very another interesting topic that you are public administration, you should know that what are the problems of governance in Pakistan. Even you speak a layman, he will be talking about many things. This is happening, this should happen, this is not happening, government should do this, the institution should do this, but we will see this historically and in different context and framework, and then we will try to link this, that why there is a problem of governance in Pakistan. Are you agree with me that is there problem of governance in Pakistan? I am sure that you are just shaking your head with my positively with me that there is a serious problem of governance in Pakistan, or you can say simply there is a bad governance. Resources are always there. I remember to listen from a Nobel laureates that the poor countries are poor because they are poor in management of their resources, not due to the lack of resources. Resources matter, but doesn't matter. It is your management of the resources. You are the public administrator. You should bring very high output from a minimum given level. This is your opportunity. अब सऊदी अरब के पास तेल है, they have become a rich country. What is their contribution? I don't think that they are the developed nation, and the standard of life although is there, but they are very vulnerable. Unfortunately, due to these cyclones, the earthquakes, if there is any change that there is a breakage of the supply of the oil, what will be the situation of the Saudi Arabia? I don't think that even they will be able to just have their survival for this, that is the food or the other things. So I don't want this, but at the same time I should suggest that being public administrator, you should go the optimal solution. Optimal solution means with the minimum resource you get the maximum possible option available. Now we will discuss, this is a years long history. It is not a history of 2 or 3 years. It is a 66-year story, and it will continue. However, it has taken different changes over the years, and we will see that what were those changes and what were the consequences, causes, and many other dimensions of those changes. So keep with me over the history of this. Each front not satisfactory performance. None of our institution has performed over the year. I can't say that this institution is at least performed up to the level. There are small spans of time where some of the indicators or some of the institutions were performing very good. For example, PIA was one of the 10th first international airlines, but over the years the institution eroded due to many other factors that will be the topic of our discussion. If you look at our team, once it comprises the Wasim and Waqar, the two legends of reverse swing that the world has never seen ever, and even after that no one has such control over the ball as the Wasim and Waqar were, and at the same time Inzamam, Saeed Anwar, and these were the best player. Now you can see we have just lost the series against Zimbabwe after 1997. This was a big blow to this. This is one example of the erosion of the institution. Players should be there. Why the talent is not being polished? Everyone is there. The 180 million population is there, but we can't have the 11 players. Look at the India. Sachin Tendulkar played 200 tests and he was given C-off like legendary. I think even the Prime Minister did not get such kind of C-off as he was given. A huge homage was paid to them, and he deserved this. And this is the situation that if the institution play their role, then there is the situation of this. Every team, now very sorry to say that our hockey team is now not the contender in the next Hockey World Cup, and we have been the 4 or 5 time Hockey World Champion. However, at individual level, high performance. Institution पे आप देखें कोई performance नहीं है, but you listen in the newspaper, you see in the print, you listen in the electronic media, you see in the print media that individually Pakistani are performing wonder over the world. Sometimes you can see that one person has scored so many A grades. Look at the Malala, look at the other people. They are performing significantly. It means there is a problem of management or administration that needs to be addressed. So why not good governance? If this is the situation, if talent is there, then why we say that there is not a good governance? So it means it requires some other things. We will have a great look other. What are its dynamic? It is not a simple problem as it looks at this stage. It has a very complicated and very difficult to understand. It has different dimensions, and we will have a look at these dimensions. So starting from here, the dynamics of power. Who are the stakeholders? The military, bureaucracy, and the people. Military is also a bureaucracy, but I am just it is one kind of the bureaucracy also, but it is totally different from the bureaucracy, and we will see that in which respect it is different from the bureaucracy, and what is the true, that are the real honor of the people, that how over the year the power shifted towards automatically through the bureaucracy and the military. Over the 60s year, if you let me allow to make a statement, that over the 60s year, Pakistani people did not rule themselves, but the military and the bureaucracy ruled them and put them in such a situation. We see how the state apparatus came to predominate over the political system. It was the right of the political leaders, or political leader means the public, to govern themselves by democracy. We will see that how gradually it happened that the state apparatus, that are the bureaucracy and the military, how they became powerful and they dominated this political system. Within the state apparatus, we will see that there are two major state apparatus of the state, two major apparatus of the state, that are the military and bureaucracy, and within them what happened, the bureaucracy and the military have so far been co-shares of the piece of the power. ये जो केक बांटा है बंदर की तरह, they have been co-shared, complementing to each other, but we will see that there are some differences. They always complement. एक ने पास दिया, दूसरे ने जो है वो उसको गोल किया. Definitely the military was given the had the power, and he used or exercised and executed his power through this the bureaucracy. It means the bureaucracy and the military have been the true administrator of the Pakistan. It would be useful to examine these dynamics. Why it is useful? Since the bureaucracy and military are two quite different institutions. If we look by nature, or if we look by nature or by construction or by objective, military and the bureaucracy had different roles in this. For example, the major role of the army is to defend the country from the outside or any of the attack from any other country. But the bureaucracy is supposed to help the people, to deliver the people, to facilitate the people rather than to govern the people. The governing tool is the political system. They govern their these are the tiers, or these are the tires, or the wheels of this political system. So we will see how these two different became each other. They not only relate in differing ways to the civil society. हमारा मकसद ये नहीं है कि मिलिट्री और ब्यूरोक्रेसी को अगेन डिस्कस करते रहें. They are directly related to the civil society. For example, civil society depends on the military, because definitely my security is based on our army, because we are paying, and we have had a very powerful army for the same purpose, but have moved in opposite direction. And what we expect from the bureaucracy, that they are the servants of the nation, and they should behave the nation in such a way that the nation thinks that they are true servants of the nations, rather than they are the kings of the nation. So they have moved in opposite direction. So जिसका जो किरदार था वो उससे totally different हो गया. किसी को X दिया गया तो Y की तरफ चला गया. If someone was asked to go to the west, he was supposed to go to the east. So there was a huge mess or chaos over the years, and the role was not clear for this or that. The first we will start. I am just giving you a hint of this, and after this I would like to have conclusion or the summary of this lecture, because it is just going to the time is going to be over. Just giving you in which context we think economic growth, not teaching you the economics, but economic growth has played a significant role in making the civil society so helpless, and ultimately shifting the powers, making the space, creating a vacuum that should be fulfilled by the military. And we will discuss that how it was deliberately done, or it was just happened by chance. So The ruling elite at the dawn of independence consisted of alliance between landlords and the industrialists backed by the military and the bureaucrats. पहले दिन से ही जो ईंट है, that was not the ईंट टेढ़ी जो है वो लगी. What happened when the Pakistan came into being? At that time the alliance एक जो है वो it was a natural alliance between landlords and industrialists. एक तरफ तो ये हो गए landlords and industrialists backed by the military and the bureaucracy. They were on the front, landlords and the industrialists were on the front, and military and the bureaucracy was on their behind to just push them that they are going to, and similar situation will continue. One thing to make it clear, that the role of economic development, economic growth has been a significant factor in changing the polarization, or you can say the making polarized society over the year. And when there is polarization, the political government becomes weakened, and there is a chance for the non-representative or the non-state state actors to contribute to this one. So I think it's time to have a brief summary of the previous lecture. So we started from the devolution plan of the Musharraf, and we went some of the basic changes for this, and we concluded that although the same hierarchy remained over the year, and that there was not a significant change in this. Why there was not a significant change? On paper there was a very good musawda, or you can say the framework of this was written, but ultimately the center was representative, the local government was representative, center non-representative, and the local government, they were the representative, and there was a very difficult two different poles, and this exercise was totally a failure. Throughout the history, we can see that the one basic thing remains in all the local government election, that the true powers were never shifted, and it was made sure that the power remains with the centers, and particularly the financials and the accountability powers remained with the centers, that never allow them to progress in a proper way. What the lesson we learned from this whole history? The first lesson was that there should be a true mechanism that the administrative power goes to the local people, and the election should, the second one was that the election should be convened on the party basis, so that the political parties gets root into the system and they become more powerful to solve this problem. And just before concluding this, we started the problem of governance in Pakistan. That is the critical problem. Over the 66 years, no one can deny that a few exceptions in a very small span of time, there has been bad governance. This bad governance is not due to the lack of resources. This is due to the lack of the public policy and the public administration. We will see this situation from different contexts, and we have just started the economic development phenomena, that how it made the society, the polarized, or made the society distributed the resources unequally between different segments of the society, that ultimately led the resentment in the societies, and ultimately there was the fight between haves and have not. Let me conclude here. So thank you very much for your, now you are getting that insight idea how the public administration is going on, what were the problem of the governance, what were the local system, and we hope to have more and more and deeper and interesting debate in the same context. So till next lecture, let me go. Thank you very much.